All right. Today I'm looking at Dickel 8-year bourbon whiskey, and some interesting stuff about this. This is really one of those weirdo sleeper hit bourbons that probably doesn't get tasted a lot, doesn't get reviewed a lot, doesn't get talked about, but it is wild. And I've always had this thought about Dickel, and it's really interesting because Dickel has popped up in lots of sourced brands over the last few years, especially older versions of Dickel. And if you've ever been to this distillery, it's literally like it's out of 1950. The equipment, what they do, their process, everything. It is a stout, rough, wild distillate. It is rich and oily, and it is not, in my opinion, this sort of light, clean whiskey coming off the still. It is a flavor bomb, and it's not for everybody. Unlike Jack Daniel's, it has this very, very particular banana note. Dickel, to me, has this very intense yeasty note that has to really be treated to the right amount of age and proof for it to be good. So I'm not necessarily sold on the higher proof versions of the Dickel. I think these lower proof versions, especially with some age on them, are pretty good. This used to be number 8, and it didn't have really an age statement. It was a minimum of a 4-year-old, and I think that was just sort of a little bit of a marketing trick. But now it's got an 8-year age statement, and they're not really promoting it as a Tennessee whiskey. It's bourbon whiskey right there, front and center on the label. So what is really crazy about this? One, it's that yeasty bomb nose. Tons of like apple orchard, apple skin, apple candy, caramel apple. All of that's going on the nose. Really, it's just a big orchard party. And then it's just a nice mix of orchard, a little maple sugar, maybe a little bit of honey, but definitely it's got that strong fruit combined with that really strong yeast aroma. I mean, to me, Dickel is such an outlier in terms of its flavor profile. It's so different than anything else on the market that I'm surprised more people don't talk about it in that way, because it's such a unique flavor, because it's got such a big flavor. So I'm always thinking I'm in the mood for Dickel when it's just, you just want something like rough, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean something that's just like, that's gonna have a nice like bite to it. It's gonna taste like whiskey. There's nothing gentle to me about Dickel in a good way. So 8 years old. It's got some age on it. It's a great proof for it. Again, this is oily. Corn oil, leather. I mean, this is just a mouth-coating, oily whiskey. I know Bullet has Frontier whiskey put on the front of their label. To me, this is the Frontier whiskey. This is an old style of whiskey. This is a whiskey that has not changed in years, in decades. Second sip, a little bit more fruit, a little bit more spice, especially on the finish. But that big bump of that kind of yeasty note is right there, always right there in the middle. You get it on the finish. You kind of chew it a little bit. You get it a little bit more. The fruit's still there, but definitely that big old-fashioned yeasty note. And this is just a down and dirty, good old nasty frontier whiskey. So if you're in the mood for something wild, grab a bottle of this Dickel 8 and have a good time, because that's what it's for. All right, cheers.